What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Kamaru Usman has praised Khamzat for delivering what he believes was the performance of the year. Speaking alongside Henry Cejudo, both fighters agreed that Khamzat's win over Du Plessis stood above everything else. Usman described it as total domination in a single fight, calling it the best overall performance he has seen. He said for him, the choice was easy, pointing straight to Khamzat and what he managed to do in a championship-level matchup. Henry Cejudo echoed those thoughts, agreeing completely and emphasizing the level of opposition. He highlighted that this was not just any fight, but a championship bout against a proven and dangerous fighter like Du Plessis. Cejudo noted that the way Khamzat controlled the fight from start to finish made it even more impressive, especially considering the pressure and stakes involved. Usman broke down the numbers to underline just how dominant the performance really was. He pointed to the control time, mentioning that Khamzat racked up around 21 minutes of control, completely neutralizing Du Plessis across multiple rounds. Usman also highlighted the striking statistics, noting that Khamzat landed an overwhelming majority of his attempts, with numbers that were almost unheard of at the championship level. According to Usman, when you combine the control, the pressure, and the accuracy, it paints the picture of one of the most one-sided title fights the sport has ever seen. He went as far as saying it might be the most dominant championship performance in UFC history. Both Usman and Cejudo made it clear that this was not just about winning, but about how Khamzat imposed his will in every area of the fight, leaving no doubt about his superiority on that night. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to help support the channel. Moving on to another news. Lerone Murphy has revealed that he only started training MMA when he was 22 years old, a detail that continues to surprise fans. Murphy explained that before stepping into combat sports, his background was rooted in football, which in the UK means soccer. He said he began playing football as a kid, around 7 years old, spending most of his childhood playing outside, representing school teams and staying active through the sport. Despite being competitive and athletic from a young age, he never formally trained in any combat discipline during those early years. Murphy shared that he did not transition into boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or any structured fighting sport growing up. Instead, his first real exposure to fighting came casually at home, where he and his brothers and cousins would put on boxing gloves and spar for fun. There was no coaching involved, no gym environment, and no technical guidance, but those experiences helped him develop a basic understanding of how to fight and defend himself. He emphasized that while he had instincts and toughness, he lacked formal training until much later. Everything changed when he was 22 years old. Murphy stated clearly that his very first proper training session of any kind was MMA, and he went straight into it without any prior background. He recalled that this happened toward the end of 2013, a moment that remains vivid in his memory. That first session was actually a kickboxing class, and he arrived without any equipment of his own. He had to borrow gloves and gear just to take part, not knowing what to expect from the experience. After completing that initial session, Murphy said something immediately clicked. He described falling in love with MMA straight away, explaining that it became a place where he could switch off from everything else and feel completely free. The gym gave him a sense of focus and calm that he had not felt before. From that moment on, MMA became more than just training. It became a passion and a pathway that would eventually lead him to the highest level of the sport. Moving on to another news. Israel Adesanya has made it clear that he plans to finish his fighting career in the UFC. Speaking during a recent Q&A, Adesanya shut down the idea of transitioning into boxing once his MMA run is over. He explained that for him, mixed martial arts represents the ultimate form of combat, and it is where his journey both belongs and ends. Adesanya said that while he always leaves room for possibility by saying, "Never say never," his belief is that his career will end inside the UFC. He reflected on the thought process he went through a couple of months ago, explaining that he has always told himself that boxing was not something he would pursue. In his view, MMA allows a fighter to use every limb and every weapon, making it the most complete expression of fighting. He went on to say that as someone who has already reached the highest levels of the sport, it would feel strange to step away and say he is now just going to box. Adesanya emphasized that his legacy is already set in stone because of what he has accomplished in MMA. However, he also acknowledged that everyone has a number, a price point that could make them consider other options. Adesanya revealed that he discovered his own number around 2 months ago and described it as extremely high. He joked that he does not believe many people could afford it, possibly only someone like Turkey Alicia. Even with that thought, he made it clear that the idea still does not truly appeal to him. He also referenced other fighters exploring opportunities outside the UFC, saying that Darren is doing his own thing elsewhere. For himself, Adesanya remains focused on finishing his journey at the top, inside the UFC, staying true to the sport that defined his career and cemented his place among the elite. Moving on to another news. Gable Steveson has set his sights on a massive UFC debut at the White House. The 25-year-old Olympic gold medalist revealed during a New Year's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience that he is targeting the UFC White House card on June 14, 2026, as the ideal moment to officially arrive in the promotion. For Steveson, the setting and the timing would represent a perfect launch onto the biggest stage in MMA. Gable explained that his plan involves taking 1 or 2 more developmental fights before making the jump. He wants to continue sharpening his skills and building momentum before stepping onto the South Lawn. That confidence is backed by results, as Steveson is currently riding an impressive streak of 3 straight first-round knockouts. His most recent performance was a brutal 15-second dirty boxing finish over Billy Swanson, a win that quickly went viral. Those performances have already caught the attention of key figures within the UFC, including matchmaker Mick Maynard. Joe Rogan has also become one of Steveson's loudest supporters. Rogan revealed that he personally texted Dana White after watching Gable's latest fight, warning him that once Steveson officially joins the roster, the heavyweight division is in serious trouble. Steveson also shared his hope of appearing on the same historic card as his mentor and training partner, Jon Jones. Jones has previously labeled Gable as a future heavyweight champion, praising his athleticism and potential. However, Dana White has expressed skepticism about Jones headlining the event, pointing to retirement talk and unpredictability as major obstacles. Still, Gable remains optimistic. He described his perfect scenario as taking 1 or 2 more fights, signing with the UFC in a major announcement, and then debuting at the White House. Rogan doubled down on his praise, calling Steveson a freak athlete with unreal speed for a heavyweight, saying his power, movement, and explosiveness make him a nightmare matchup for anyone in the division. Moving on to another news. Henry Cejudo versus Urijah Faber is now official. Henry Cejudo has officially signed with Real American Freestyle Wrestling and is set to headline RAF 6 on February 28th. After weeks of speculation, his opponent has been revealed. Henry will step onto the mat to wrestle Urijah Faber in the main event, marking a major crossover moment for combat sports fans. The announcement confirms Cejudo's return to elite competition in a pure wrestling setting, while Faber brings his own legendary pedigree and experience. Anticipation is already building as both veterans prepare for a high-profile clash under the RAF banner soon today. Moving on to another news. Khabib has spoken openly about his strict coaching philosophy and how he continues the legacy of his late father. After retiring as one of the most dominant champions in UFC history, Khabib has successfully transitioned from elite fighter to elite coach, carrying the same no-nonsense mindset into the gym. He explained that when training begins, discipline is absolute and expectations are clear for everyone involved. Khabib said that once fighters step into the gym, there is no freedom of speech. He made it clear that when he is the coach, his word is final. There is no middle ground, no half effort, and no debate. Fighters are either fully committed or they are out. According to Khabib, this approach allows him to push his athletes to their limits, and he believes the results speak for themselves, with champions and top-level fighters competing across multiple organizations. He expressed pride in his team and said their success shows that the system works. For Khabib, being the best team is not about comfort or ego. It is about structure, responsibility, and constant pressure to improve. He emphasized that winning and losing are part of sport, but effort, focus, and seriousness are non-negotiable traits. Khabib explained that some fighters take competition personally, and that is something he respects. He criticized situations where athletes lose and appear unfazed, standing around or smiling after defeat. To him, that attitude is unacceptable. He said that anyone on his team must care deeply about performance. Losing can happen to anyone, but fighters must always show their best and never appear comfortable with failure. He made it clear that smiling or joking while losing would cause serious problems within his team. The standard is to compete with pride, intensity, and accountability at all times. This mindset reflects the values instilled in him by his father. After his father passed away, Khabib defended his title one final time by submitting Justin Gaethje at UFC 254 in October 2020 before retiring. He honored a promise to his mother to walk away from competition. Following his retirement, Khabib realized he had become the oldest and most experienced person in the room. He explained that within their rules, younger fighters must listen and elders lead. With his father gone, Khabib understood that leadership now fell on him. He knew he could not walk away and leave the team behind. He accepted the responsibility to guide, lead, and protect his father's legacy, stating clearly that he was ready for the role, even if others might not be. Moving on to another news, Holly Holm has shared her perspective on Ronda Rousey's recent comments and the way her career is remembered. Holm, who will always be linked to one of the biggest moments in MMA history, famously knocked out Ronda Rousey at UFC 193 in 2015 to become champion. Entering that fight as a massive underdog, Holm controlled the action from the opening exchange before landing the head kick that stunned the world and reshaped the sport. Years later, Holm has long moved on from that rivalry, but renewed attention around Rousey has brought the topic back into focus. With Rousey returning to training, speculation about a possible comeback quickly followed. Holm said she would not be shocked if Rousey ever fought again, pointing out her background as an Olympian and former champion. She explained that reaching that level requires real passion, and if Rousey has found that spark again, anything is possible. Holm added that if Rousey is simply enjoying training, that is one thing, but competing is another. She said she never rules anything out and would even be open to a rematch, acknowledging how unpredictable life and combat sports can be. At the same time, she noted that a desire to fight must come from a genuine place, not just curiosity or nostalgia. Rousey's legacy remains firmly established, but her UFC run ended abruptly after back-to-back knockout losses to Holm and then Amanda Nunes. After those defeats, Rousey largely disappeared from MMA before resurfacing in professional wrestling with WWE. Recently, Rousey has expressed frustration with fans, suggesting that criticism from supporters is unfair and part of the sport's fickle nature. Holm disagrees with that view. She believes Rousey is partly responsible for how her exit was perceived because she pulled herself away from the fans. Holm explained that many champions face setbacks but still confront the crowd, the media, and the moment. In her view, stepping away created distance, which shaped the reaction that followed. She added that if Rousey returned today, many fans would cheer for her. Holm pointed out that fight fans can be harsh, but they also understand losses are part of the sport. She feels that facing the situation differently could have changed how negative it felt for Rousey. Holm also acknowledged why an athlete might want to come back to correct past feelings, saying every fighter wishes they could avenge losses. However, Holm warned that returning solely to erase bad memories is not the right motivation. She hopes that if Rousey is considering a comeback, it is because she truly wants to fight, not just because she wants the ending to feel different. Moving on to another news. A complex and controversial situation has emerged involving Ilia, his ex-wife Georgina, and Joe Rogan. Georgina has reportedly named Joe Rogan in a police complaint related to alleged online harassment. The situation traces back to Rogan's reaction to an image that later turned out to be fake and generated using AI. The image circulated online following Georgina's divorce and appeared to show her alongside a rapper. According to reports, the original photo actually featured Georgina with her brother. However, someone altered the image using AI technology, replacing her brother with the rapper, creating a misleading and highly provocative visual. Joe Rogan reportedly believed the image was real at the time and discussed it during one of his recent podcasts. During that conversation, Rogan and his co-hosts spoke about the divorce, speculated on the image, and made several strong comments about the situation without knowing it had been digitally manipulated. The remarks included assumptions about Georgina's intentions and behavior, as well as broader commentary about relationships, breakups, and reputation damage. These comments have now become part of the complaint, with Georgina claiming that the discussion contributed to online harassment and public misrepresentation. The focus of the complaint is not limited to the image itself, but also the reach and influence of the podcast discussion after it went viral. At the same time, Ilia has been summoned to appear before the Court of Violence Against Women in Spain next Wednesday, January 7th. The court appearance is connected to an ongoing legal process involving custody and care arrangements for their daughter, who currently lives with Georgina. The court has clarified that this hearing will not be used to determine the truth of the accusations or establish guilt in any criminal sense. Instead, the proceedings are strictly centered on the welfare of their child. One of Georgina's requests is permission from the court to take their daughter out of the country. This request will be evaluated based on the child's best interests, rather than any conclusions about fault or responsibility between the parents. It has also been revealed that Georgina is accusing Ilia of domestic and gender violence, as well as assault and family abuse. These allegations form part of the broader legal context, but are not being ruled on during this specific hearing. The situation remains ongoing, with multiple legal and personal layers unfolding publicly, drawing significant attention due to the high-profile figures involved and the serious nature of the claims.